Hey, so I wanted to go back to, I was going to continue with the A Course in Miracles review lessons as I was doing. I think we got up to 45. So, but it started to get into more of the like breaking free from the illusion stuff. And I wanted to go back to two of the beginning ones and actually go to the full lesson, not just the review, because there's more stuff there. And I wanted to read these things to you because, this is really, if you're sort of like, if you're in the Neville world or the manifesting world and but you're finding these kind of interesting, this is just more about how your beliefs are creating your reality. And so I just wanted to read them again. Plus, if you only heard some of this stuff for the first time, every time, I think, for me anyway, I have to hear stuff like repeated 50 times in 50 different ways before I finally fully buy into it enough that it coalesces into like an actionable idea in my mind. So I thought it would be valuable to read these again and to just go back, like instead of just doing the review, which just has a little description of each lesson, to actually read the text from these. And there are a couple, I'm going to scroll through these. And lesson 7 is I see only the past. This idea is particularly difficult to believe at first, yet it is the rationale for all of the preceding ones. It is the reason why nothing you see means anything. It is the reason why you have given everything you see all the meaning it has for you. It is the reason why you do not understand anything you see. It is the reason why your thoughts do not mean anything and why they are like the things you see. It is the reason why you are never upset for the reason you think. It is the reason why you are upset because you see something that is not there. Those are all the previous lessons. Old ideas about time are very difficult to change because everything you believe is rooted in time and depends on your not learning these new ideas about it. Yet that is precisely why you need new ideas about time. This first time idea is not really so strange as it may sound at first. Look at a cup, for example. Do you see a cup? Or are you merely reviewing your past experiences of picking up a cup, being thirsty, drinking from a cup, feeling the rim of a cup against your lips, having breakfast, and so on? Are not your aesthetic reactions to the cup too based on past experiences? How else would you know whether or not this kind of cup will break if you drop it? What do you know about this cup except what you learned in the past? You would have no idea what this cup is except for your past learning. Do you then really see it? Look about you. This is equally true of whatever you look at. Do not, okay, and whatever. Then it goes on, blah, blah, blah. Tells you the exercise, which is just to look around at everything and I say, I see only the past in this fence. I see only the past in this steering wheel. And you just apply it to everything. So that's lesson 7. And then lesson 8 is more. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. This idea is, of course, the reason why you see only the past. No one really sees anything. He sees only his thoughts projected outward. The mind's preoccupation with the past is the cause of the misconception about time from which your seeing suffers. Your mind cannot grasp the present, which is the only time there is. It therefore cannot understand time and cannot, in fact, understand anything. The one wholly true, holy, W-H-O-L-L-Y, the one wholly true thought one can hold about the past is that it is not here. To think about it at all is therefore to think about illusions. Very few have realized what is actually entailed in picturing the past or in anticipating the future. The mind is actually blank when it does this because it is not really thinking about anything. The purpose of the exercises for today is to begin to train your mind to recognize when it is not really thinking at all. When thoughtless ideas preoccupy your mind, the truth is blocked. Recognizing that your mind has been merely blank, rather than believing that it is filled with real ideas, is the first step to opening the way to vision. And then it goes on to do the exercise, tell you what the exercise is. By the way, of course, you can get the app or find this online. A Course in Miracles now has all these lessons. So if you want to actually go and do these exercises day by day as they lay, it's a 365-day workbook. But it says, the exercise is, I seem to be thinking about whatever. Then name each of your thoughts specifically. For example, I seem to be thinking about name of person, about an object, about whatever. and so on, concluding at the end of the mind-searching period with, but my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. So that's the exercise for that. Lesson 9. I see nothing as it is now. This idea obviously follows from the two preceding ones, but while you may be able to accept it intellectually, it is unlikely that it will mean anything to you as yet. However, understanding is not necessary at this point. In fact, the recognition that you do not understand is a prerequisite for undoing your false ideas. It's funny, it's funny. You can read stuff and read it a couple years later, or in my case, like 20 years later, and stuff that made no sense. It's just crazy how your perception of ideas changes as you experience and undo a lot of this stuff. The recognition that you do not understand is a prerequisite for undoing your false ideas. That had no meaning to me 20 years ago, and it makes perfect sense now. These exercises are concerned with practice, not with understanding. You do not need to practice what you already understand. It would indeed be circular to aim at understanding and to assume that you have it already. It is difficult for the untrained mind to believe that what it seems to picture is not there. This idea can be quite disturbing and may meet with active resistance in any number of forms, yet that does not preclude applying it. No more than that is required for these or any other exercises. Each small step will clear a little of the darkness away, and understanding will finally come to lighten every corner of the mind that has been cleared of the debris that darkens it. Okay, it goes on to do the exercise, which is, I do not see this typewriter as it is now. I do not see this telephone as it is now. That's 9. 10. My thoughts do not mean anything. This idea applies to all the thoughts of which you are aware or become aware in the practice periods. The reason the idea is applicable to all of them is that they are not your real thoughts. We have made this distinction before and will do so again. You have no basis for comparison as yet. When you do, you will have no doubt that what you once believed were your thoughts did not mean anything. This is the second time we have used this kind of idea. The form is only slightly different. This time the idea is introduced with my thoughts instead of these thoughts, and no link is made overtly with the things around you. The emphasis is now on the lack of reality of what you think you think. It's crazy. So this says, you will have no doubt that what you once believed were your thoughts did not mean anything. I didn't come to that conclusion through A Course in Miracles. There's that saying, all roads lead to God. I think if you have an intention to progress forward in your understanding, if you sort of get it on some level that this world is not as it seems, if you just have a strong intention and you really mean it to progress in your understanding of all of this, and to, like it said in here, little by little, the darkness will fall away if you do these exercises, but it's, you don't have to do these exercises. You just need the intention. You wouldn't do these exercises anyway if you didn't have the intention, but, the world will lead you through a series of events that will have the exact same effect as this, if your intention is to understand. If it starts with, a suspicion that this is not all as it seems, and you believe it's all good, because if you don't, you're probably going to be too scared to actually follow through on this. I don't care if you're the biggest, toughest man on the planet. We're talking about existential terror with a lot of this stuff. If you have that intention, you will come to this understanding all on your own through a series of events that you live through that intention, which is the same as any other thing that you're trying to manifest. Everything takes the exact same route in terms of, how it happens, and what the important components are. The intention's important. The true desire to, actually have it happen, I think, is important, especially for bigger and more complicated things. I'm not, big things and small things are of the same level of difficulty to the coordinating powers of the universe, but they're not at the same level for you and your ability to actually follow through on an intention, if that makes sense. You can have an intention and drop it and have it come about with you doing nothing, but you can have other intentions, you drop it, and that doesn't happen. You know what I mean? I think some things, maybe it's just the amount of juice you put behind it or the amount of fear that you have in relation to it, but some things you have to revisit, I think, and sort of reaffirm your commitment to them. And unfortunately, there's not a guidebook for it, so you're just going to have to learn yourself, and you're going to have to, I think, assess whether or not, am I on the path to this thing? Like, if it's something I care about, am I afraid of it? You know, what's happened in relation to it? I don't know. I find this whole process to be very interesting, but I can't imagine that it is not just absolutely like to fingerprint level individualized for each person. Despite what many popular manifestation YouTubers might have you believe in order to sell their courses. But yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I had a moment there when I was reading that. Those words meant nothing to me. You know, you'll have no idea what you once believed were your thoughts did not mean anything. That phrase absolutely did not mean anything to me from my 23-year-old perspective. I was so far away from, I was so heavily ensconced in the world and worldly pursuits and things having to do with my body and things having to do with romantic relationships. Like it was all right out there in the world, and I was just like, how could my thoughts not, what the hell does that even mean? And just reading that, it was like a slap in the face in a good way. Anyway, let's move on. Let me just see what the next one is. My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. This is a big one. This is the first idea we have that is related to a major phase of the correction process, the reversal of the thinking of the world. It seems as if the world determines what you perceive. Today's idea introduces the concept that your thoughts determine the world you see. Be glad indeed to practice the idea in its initial form, for in this idea is your release made sure. The key to forgiveness lies in it. The practice periods for today's idea are to be undertaken somewhat differently than the previous ones. Begin with your eyes closed, open your eyes and look about, blah, 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 blah. I guess you're just going to repeat these words. Anyway, you can go read these lessons. Let's move on. I am upset because I see a meaningless world. The importance of this idea lies in the fact that it contains a correction for a major perceptual distortion. You think that what upsets you is a frightening world, or a sad world, or a violent world, or an insane world. All these attributes are given it by you. The world is meaningless in itself. Okay, that's it for that. What is meaningless is neither good nor bad. Why then should a meaningless world upset you? If you could accept the world as meaningless and let the truth be written upon it for you, it would make you indescribably happy. But because it is meaningless, you are impelled to write upon it what you would have it be. It is this you see in it. It is this that is meaningless in truth. Beneath your words is written the word of God. The truth upsets you now, but when your words have been erased, you will see his. That is the ultimate purpose of these exercises. Lesson 13, a meaningless world engenders fear. Today's idea is really another form of the preceding one, except that it is more specific as to the emotion aroused. Actually, a meaningless world is impossible. Nothing without meaning exists. However, it does not follow that you will not think you perceive something that has no meaning. On the contrary, you will be particularly likely to think you do perceive it. Recognition of meaninglessness arouses intense anxiety in all the separated ones. It represents a situation in which God and the ego challenge each other as to whose meaning is to be written in the empty space that meaninglessness provides. The ego rushes in frantically to establish its own ideas there, fearful that the void may otherwise be used to demonstrate its own impotence and unreality. and on this alone it is correct. It is essential, therefore, that you learn to recognize the meaningless and accept it without fear. If you are fearful, it is certain that you will endow the world with attributes that it does not possess, and crowd it with images that do not exist. To the ego, illusions are safety devices, as they must also be to you who equate yourself with the ego. I am looking at a meaningless world. The meaningless world engenders fear because I think I am in competition with God. Those are the exercise phrases. You may find it difficult to avoid resistance in one form or another to this concluding statement. Whatever form such resistance may take, remind yourself that you are really afraid of such a thought because of the vengeance of the enemy. You are not expected to believe the statement at this point and will probably dismiss it as preposterous. Note carefully, however, any signs of overt or covert fear which it may arouse. This is our first attempt at stating an explicit cause and effect relationship of a kind which you are very inexperienced in recognizing. Do not dwell on the concluding statement and try not even to think of it except during the practice periods. That will suffice at present. God did not create a meaningless world. The idea for today is, of course, the reason why a meaningless world is impossible. What God did not create does not exist, and everything that does exist exists as He created it. The world you see has nothing to do with reality. It is of your own making. It does not exist. The exercise today is think of all the horrors in the world that cross your mind. Name each one as it occurs to you and then deny its reality. God did not create it, and so it is not real. Say, for example, God did not create that war, and so it is not real. God did not create that airplane crash, and so it is not real. God did not create that specific disaster, and so it is not real. Suitable subjects for the application of today's idea also include anything you are afraid might happen to you or to anyone about whom you are concerned. In each case, name the disaster quite specifically. Do not use general terms. For example, do not say, God did not create illness, but God did not create cancer or heart attacks or whatever may arouse fear in you. This is your personal repertory of horrors at which you are looking. I don't feel like I've ever heard the word repertory before. These things are part of the world you see. Some of them are shared illusions and others are part of your personal hell. It does not matter. What God did not create can only be in your own mind apart from His. Therefore, it has no meaning. In recognition of this fact, conclude the practice periods by repeating today's idea. God did not create a meaningless world. The idea for today can, of course, be applied to anything that disturbs you during the day, aside from the practice periods. Be very specific in applying it. Say, God did not create a meaningless world. He did not create me finding Matt dead in the bed when I come home from work, and so it is not real. There you go. Personal example. I've had this fear that I'm just gonna find Matt's corpse in the house somewhere. I don't know why. I just he's such a big, tall guy, and I have this idea in my mind that you just I was telling him when we first met, I'm like, you never see old guys that are 6'5". You just rarely, and so I have this idea that tall people don't live that long. And I don't know, we're rapidly approaching 50. So I'm just one of these days I'm going to come home and just find Matt keeled over on the floor. So yeah, I'm glad that I read this. I think that's good enough. God did not create a meaningless world. He did not create Matt's corpse being found on the floor of our house randomly by me. And so it is not real. Anyway, I'm going to stop here because this is getting really long. And so, of course, I encourage you to go and get this app or go to the website and actually read through, because I just I didn't read you all the instructions for the practice periods. If you actually want to do this, I don't think it's a bad idea to just do, if you don't want to just do every single one straight through for a year, I don't think it hurts to do the ones that you feel attracted to. Maybe A Course in Miracles people would disagree with me on that, but anything that brings you relief is a good thing, in my opinion. So if one of these stood out to you and you're like, ooh, I want to repeat that to myself because just hearing that made me feel better, go look at it. It's the first, those were the first 14 lessons I just ran through, or no, I started on 7, I guess. So that was 7 through 14, but You know, I think in order, I don't think you can partially do A Course in Miracles and like break out of the illusion, but I think you can, I think that you can get some value out of these things, even if you're not like interested in diving into the whole thing. I've said on here before, and I'll repeat it again, I have called on the Holy Spirit, which I don't even know what that is or what that means, but whatever. I just assume it's a liaison, some sort of entity idea that actually is helpful. I have called on that a million times in the last 20 years to change my perception about a situation, and it has been amazing. It's led me to right where I am right now, which I will be forever grateful for. And that was maybe the one thing that I took from A Course in Miracles 20 years ago, and I can't tell you the amount of value it's provided. And you know, if you're into the Neville Goddard stuff and you're exploring the ideas of self-concept, creating your reality, a lot of people don't see the parallels. So I don't know, maybe you'll just have to take my word for it. There is so much, they're talking about the same thing. It's like, to use a Neville Goddard phrase, Neville is like A Course in Miracles keyed low. Even though he's quite advanced, he's like A Course in Miracles keyed low in a lot of ways. Talking about all the same stuff. And I think all of these things, anything you can get from it to sort of grab it and propel yourself forward or up, or however you want to look at it, is good. Anything that starts to crack you out of the toxic thinking of culture and the world will be of a benefit at some point, if not right now. So I don't know, I hope any of this is helping anybody with anything. This one might have just been for me, I don't know. But yeah, I hope you're at least enjoying this. If not, I'm not planning on doing A Course in Miracles content forever, so but there will be a video here every morning this year. Look at me go. It's March 5th. What day is it? It's March 5th right now. This probably won't be up till the weekend. But look at me go. I am already over 2 months into this, no sweat, and it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I haven't been this committed to something I said I was gonna do in, I can't remember when. This is happening. And so is the book I'm going to release this year. That is not formulated yet. So, yeah, but hey, I've spoken it into existence. So anyway, have a great day.